All right, Raf Diallo here from the RT Soccer Podcast, and our next full episode will be coming on Monday, where we'll react to the Euro 2024 final between Spain and England, the Ireland women's qualifier against the Three Lionesses, and the League of Ireland clubs in Europe. But like many people, the identity of the long-awaited successor to Stephen Kenny as Republic of Ireland manager came as a huge surprise. It's Heimir Hallgrimsson from Iceland, who has previously managed his own country at major tournaments and just left the role of Jamaica head coach. He's our fourth ever foreign manager after Doug Livingston, Jack Charlton, and Giovanni Trapattoni. So we wanted to get a good insight on who he is as a manager, communicator, and personality. So I'm delighted to be joined by Icelandic sports journalist Jóhann Ingi Hafþórsson from one of the country's leading daily newspapers, Morgunblaðið, and he was also covering the Champions League first leg between Vikingur of Reykjavik and Shamrock Rovers, so we might touch on that later. Jóhann, thanks very much for taking the time, and I hope I didn't butcher all those names I was saying there.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and you're doing fine, better than most foreigners. So.
Yeah, no, and no, I had your help before we started as well, just to make sure we got it right. But look, obviously, as we said, we're speaking about the new Ireland manager, who, of course, was the manager of your country previously and also joint manager at one point, assistant manager. And this is, of course, Heimir Hallgrimsson. He was not on the radar of many people here over the last 8 months. I don't know how aware you are of how long the Irish managerial search has been going on, but it's been 8 months since Stephen Kenny parted ways with the association November of last year.
No idea.
Yeah, lots of names have been brought up over the last 8 months, but this name was not on the radar at all. It's a huge surprise to us. How big of a surprise has it been in Iceland?
Oh, it's out of nowhere, really. I had absolutely no idea he was talking to other FAs. And what I read, they've been communicating since March. That's been well under the radar. I had no idea. I thought it would continue with Jamaica. So yeah, that's a huge surprise for us as well.
Yeah, and what's the reaction been in Iceland so far? Because it is a high-profile job for him to have, of course.
Yeah, I think it's definitely his biggest job, the biggest job of his career. We're super happy for him because he's a big hero over here. And I think also he wanted to get back to Europe and be closer to home. And we're delighted for him. And we are absolutely sure he will give his absolute best. And when he does his best, good things will happen.
Okay, so that sounds good from an Irish point of view. But let's listen to a short clip of him. He was speaking to my colleague Dave Kelly at the Aviva Stadium yesterday after his initial press conference, where he met the rest of the Irish media for the very first time. So this is a very short clip.
What is achievable with the squad?
Well, if you look at the Euros, everything is achievable. You've seen nations that probably nobody expected to succeed. Nations like Georgia, Slovenia, Slovakia doing really well. So with a good team spirit, with good teamwork, with hard work and dedication, focus, discipline, everything is achievable in football today. And the gap between, if we can say, the best nations and the others are always getting smaller and smaller. So it's just, I think just working as a unit, working together, I think that is a key.
Before we talk about the football side, there's obviously been a lot of mention of his background and the fact that he's also a qualified dentist and he's worked in that field as well. I guess within certain levels of Icelandic football, that wouldn't necessarily be unusual at the semi-pro edge of it, and with the way he started.
No, not at all. Every single player who plays in Iceland also has a second job, and it's totally normal for us. But don't ask him about his dentist job. He's had so many questions through the years, and he's happy to talk about football. He has a smile on his face when he's talking about football, but his mood changes a tiny bit when you ask him about his dentist job. But even when he was coaching Jamaica, when he was back home, his clinic was still open, so he was still doing his dentistry work while coaching Jamaica. So yeah.
Yeah, and his background in terms of where he's from in Iceland. So I was reading he's born on an island called Heimaey, is it?
Yeah, he actually grew up there. It's called Vestmannaeyjar. It's about 5,000 people who live there. But he had to flee his hometown because there was a volcanic eruption, very Icelandic thing. And he had to flee for about, I think, half a year when he was only 5 years old. And yeah, it's this tiny island on south coast of Iceland. It's disconnected from the rest of Iceland, and it's a very small town with a tight-knit community, and he tries to be there as much as he can. That's his hometown. He loves that place.
Yeah, and then his early playing career. So this was again sort of more in his hometown, sort of at an amateur level, and then he gets into coaching. So there's an overlap here where he works in both the men's and women's game for IBV, which is his local team.
Yeah, that's right. But when he was 26, he moved to the east of Iceland, and that's where he had his first coaching gig. And he was only 26 years old, and he was playing for the men's team while coaching the women's team, and he got the women's team to the Premier League. So when he was 26 years old, he was already making strides as a coach and getting teams promoted.
Yeah, and then 2011, and this is where he makes a big step. So the federation announced that Lars Lagerback, former Sweden manager, becomes Iceland manager, and then Hallgrimsson is brought in as assistant. At that stage, given what he had done at club level in both the men's and women's game, I think trophies-wise, he seems to have won one trophy in that stage, is the 2004 Women's Cup with IBV. Was it a surprise to people in Iceland that he was elevated to the national team level?
Not really, because you have to look at the bigger picture. His team from this 5,000, I mean, there's only 5,000 people there, and he was winning the cup. And in the men's team, they ended, I think they're third in the league 2 years in a row, which for that team is a huge achievement. So he was already one of our bright young managers. So I think it was just a natural step to get this assistant manager gig. It wasn't a surprise at that time, no.
So he would have had quite a decent profile, or at least a grow, at least within football circles.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It was. I think most people agreed he was one of the best Icelandic coaches at that time. So it was natural, I think.
Yeah, and I suppose the period when he's involved alongside Lagerback was the start of Iceland's golden era. Was there a sense of how that setup worked in terms of where does Lagerback's influence begin and end, and where did Hallgrimsson's his influence within the setup, where did that start and end, and what was his sort of impact internally?
I think it was basically like a sponge. He was getting everything from Lagerback, taking it all in. He learned so much from him. But within the team, I think it was more of a player-to-player manager. Maybe Lagerback did the tactical stuff, but him did the player, the man-to-man management. And he has character. You could see him smiling a lot with his dentist smile. And he's a charming guy. So he was good with the players. Well, maybe Lagerback did the tactical stuff mostly. Heimir was the man manager. And he learned so much from Lagerback that when he took over, he was ready to be the man manager. And also he had grown a lot tactically as well at that stage.
Yeah, so that would have been the rationale, because then 2014, obviously there's you miss out on the World Cup very narrowly in that playoff to Croatia, and then the new contracts are signed. Lagerback stays as manager, but Hallgrimsson is then promoted to be joint manager, which is not something we see in football a lot. It's not unusual. There have been cases over the years of joint managers, but so the rationale really was that he was seen as having grown, and that they could work alongside each other rather than in a hierarchical structure.
Absolutely, he clearly had been impressed. He impressed a lot in when he was working with Lagerback. So when Lagerback quit, it was natural that he would take over. He was ready by then. And if you look at the World Cup qualifiers group when Iceland reaches World Cup in Russia, they won that group with, I think it was Croatia, Ukraine, and Turkey. And for Iceland to win a group, that group is incredible. And that's after Lagerback left. So clearly at that stage he was ready to take that step. But it was as I said, he was like a sponge. He slowly got ready, and yeah. So it's a good progress. He made good progress.
Yeah, and then essentially being groomed to be the top man, which happens after Euro 2016. But going back to those Euros in 2016, it was the last time Ireland was at a tournament as well. And I think we all remember what Iceland did, and not just on the pitch, but that the hand clap that happened between the supporters and the players after every match, which I think every country in the world then started copying, which is unfortunate because it was very much Icelandic. But on the pitch, it was pragmatic. It was 4-4-2. It was counter-attacking, use of set pieces, and you get to the quarterfinals that way. Would it be fair to say that is very much okay? Lagerback was joint manager at the time, but Hallgrimsson's template as a coach and what he believes in is what we saw at Euro 2016.
It's actually, the 4-4-2 thing was more of a Lagerback thing, in my opinion, because after Heimir fully took over, he started experimenting with different tactics. He had 4-3-3, 4-4-1
as well.
Yeah, and 4-4-1-1 with an attacking midfielder behind the striker. In Russia, the tactics were a bit. I mean, he adapts to the opponent and he adapts to the player he has. But with Lagerback, it was 4-4-2 nothing. But that worked. If you have two very hard-working strikers, that works very well. But yeah, 4-4-2 was more of a Lagerback thing, while Heimir is more adaptive.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be a fear of parking the bus, because I was, I think, as I told you prior to our interview, I remember interviewing Kári Arnason, your centre back from the Euro 2016 run, when there was a friendly here in Dublin back in 2017, and he used the term "park the bus," and also that, you know, Iceland played to their strengths, and they didn't apologize for the style of play either. So I guess Hallgrimsson, in terms of set pieces particularly, which was I think a facet, the long throw against England when you famously beat them in 2016, and then I think there was a game against Austria where it was a similar tactic. Set pieces are going to be a huge thing that we're going to sort of experience from the way he manages the team.
Oh, absolutely, and be happy out of possession as well. Be comfortable out of possession. The wingers were basically second fullbacks when they were defending, and the defending starts with the front two, really. And of course, set pieces. I hope you have a good long thrower. It's going to work. Yes, set piece is huge. And if I remember correctly, this friendly against Ireland, I think it ended 1-0, and the goal came from a free kick, so directly from a set piece. So, and also what he said, I think it was on the press conference, he said there's a lot of similarities with Irish people and Icelandic people. So he believes that what worked with the Icelandic team can work with the Ireland team as well, because they have similar mentalities. So that could help.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, because there has been discussion in terms of alignment from the youth teams, or the under 15s grade, all the way up to the seniors. That's something the FAI, the Football Association of Ireland, have stated previously in terms of what they want from a manager. When he was involved with Iceland, did he show much interest in terms of even having maybe a template of play that runs all the way down from seniors all the way down to the youth teams, or is the structure different in Iceland in his time?
Well, in his opinion, he's big on grassroots. That's hugely important for him. But you didn't really see it in the successful Icelandic teams, because we had a very the team was very experienced, and maybe the reason we didn't do so well in Russia, because players were getting a bit old, and maybe a little bit too old. So you didn't really see it with the Icelandic team. But in general, he's big on grassroots. And I heard him say somewhere that the Irish FA, they will understand if it doesn't get results right away. It might take some time, because he wants to work with the grassroots and get some younger players in. So yeah, that's something close to him. He likes to work with the youth system.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, he's quite charming. I think it came across in his press conference and his initial interviews so far. And obviously, I think he did point out as well, as long as you don't ask him about the dentistry point of view. So at least I've taken that mental note anyway, if I do when I do run into him. But did that affable nature change in the World Cup in 2018 after, okay, the first game against Argentina, brilliant, you get a 1-1 draw, but then when results started to dip and you went out of the tournament, when I think the ambition beforehand was you thought maybe you might be able to get out of the group, did that relationship with the media change a little bit?
Not really. We're still Iceland, and just to be at the World Cup, we were extremely grateful to him. He got us there. He got us to places we didn't even dare to dream about. So not at all. He's always been this. He's just a normal guy from a small town in Iceland, and we were usually nice to him, and he was nice to us. We always had a very good relationship. So if you treat him nicely, he will treat you very nicely. That didn't change at all.
Okay, and of course, after his time with Iceland, then he goes abroad and he goes to Al Arabi in Qatar first, and then the Jamaica job, which he's just left, and spent about almost 2 years there. Were people in Iceland following his adventures afterwards very closely in terms of first in Qatar and then when he went to Jamaica?
At first in Qatar, yes, but that's not really an exciting league from our point of view. So maybe with time we kind of forgot he was there. But when he took over Jamaica, we started following him very closely again. And he reached Copa America, and that's what he does. He reaches the big tournaments, and that's why Ireland is hiring him. But yeah, in Jamaica for sure, it was we were happy to see him get a big profile job again, to see him in the limelight again. So yeah, for sure in Jamaica. But there was maybe the last 2 years in Al Arabi, we kind of forgot about him. But we're glad he's back on the radar.
Yeah, and the results when it comes to his job with Jamaica seems to have been relatively successful. So the CONCACAF Gold Cup, getting to the semis, and then third in the CONCACAF Nations League. The Copa America, not as well, but it's not an easy competition given the teams involved. But losing all 3 games. But overall, what's the verdict on how he did with Jamaica in particular, and I suppose tactically as well? Because as you said, he's a bit of a shapeshifter, and he went 3-4-2-1 mostly with the Jamaican team, with the profile of players they have.
Yeah, I think he can walk away from Jamaica with his head high. Of course, the Copa America was a difficult one, but in the first game against Mexico, they were so close to getting results from that game. But I think after that game, the spirits kind of went down, and it was difficult after that. But I think overall, he did well with Jamaica, and he can be happy with his time there. And also, we're talking about he's a nice, charming guy, but he also has a ruthless side. Him and Leon Bailey, they didn't get along, and Leon Bailey is a star player for Jamaica. He had some problems. He had something to say, so he wasn't chosen for the Copa America. So you have to follow his rules.
Okay, and so overall, from an Irish perspective of what you expect, from an Icelandic perspective of his time in Ireland now, so he's been talking a lot about going back to basics and being organised, and I think that is basically going to be the template we're going to expect.
Yeah, absolutely. The Icelandic adventure had to start somewhere. We call it going back to basics. I mean, we were in 4-4-2. That's going back to basics. So going back to football, how it used to be. And you said it earlier in this interview. No, it's what he said in the interview you showed earlier. The reason words hard work, graft. It's all about hard work. You have to work hard to be successful, and that's number 1, 2, and 3. And he gets that. He gets his player to work for him. So
the other thing he's now he hasn't really spoken of in depth because no decisions have been made, and I suppose the final point on him, it's the backroom staff. He's open to the likes of John O'Shea, the former interim manager, former Manchester United and Republic of Ireland defender, of course, being involved, and other staff members. But who does he generally work with when it comes to like Icelandic coaches that potentially might follow him over?
He worked with one. He's called Helgi Kolviðsson. He was playing in Germany, but that was during the World Cup. But after that, when he went to Jamaica, it was a goalkeeper coach actually. Yeah, I think he's the only one who's followed his everywhere. It's a goalkeeper coach, but he's very adaptable with his backroom staff as well. And I heard, as you said, he's happy to work with John O'Shea, and he doesn't have like a structural backroom staff that he follows him everywhere. He's adaptable regarding that. So I think mostly maybe the goalkeeper coach will come over, and that's it.
Okay, so before I let you go, of course, Shamrock Rovers are the reigning League of Ireland champions, of course, are in Champions League qualifier action, and coincidentally, second year in a row, they're playing the team that is Icelandic champions this year, Vikingur, previously Breiðablik, and last year it did not go well at all. Breiðablik won over 2 legs and got through the second qualifying round of the Champions League. This time against Vikingur in Reykjavik, it was a 0-0 draw, which I think was viewed from a Shamrock Rovers point of view as a really good result to bring back here to Tala for the second leg on Tuesday. What's been the reaction in Iceland? You were at the game yourself. Do you look at it as a disappointment from a Vikingur point of view?
I was talking to my colleagues in the press box before the game, and they were very confident. They were absolutely sure Vikingur was going to win this game after seeing Shamrock last year, because this Viking team is better than the Breiðablik team from 1 year ago. So they were absolutely certain that they would win this game. And if you look at the game, Vikingur controlled the game. They had, I don't know, 70% of the ball, something like that. So it was a bit of a disappointment, but still, we're from Iceland. We're not supposed to win teams from Ireland. And if you turn it around, a club like Shamrock Rovers, they don't think they should be losing against an Icelandic side. But I mean, I don't forget that I'm from Iceland, so I didn't think we should have won the game, but still a bit disappointed if you look at how the game was played. But Shamrock was very defensive, 11 men behind the ball, but still they got the best chance to win the game. Johnny Kenny was through on goal. So I don't know, it was probably a fair result. But I think the second leg will be very different. Shamrock will play more attacking football at home, and they should be favorites from now on after getting a draw away from home.
But as you say, with Shamrock Rovers opening up a little bit and not being as defensive as they were away from home, do you feel it plays a little bit into the hands of the type of players Vikingur have, that there might be a bit more space sort of behind the Shamrock Rovers defence, and I suppose gaps between midfield and defence?
I'm not sure. They're not used to playing teams like that, because here in Iceland, they control the possession usually, and they like to have the ball. They like to take the short passes and keep the ball. So it's not really their thing to play counterattacks. The wingers are quite pacey, but the number 9 is a big target man. So I'm not sure playing the counter-attacking football is not really their style. So it will be interesting how it will go.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And of course, the next 2 years are going to be interesting with Heimir Hallgrimsson as manager of the Republic of Ireland, of course, as well. But it's been a great insight on him from an Icelandic point of view. So thanks very much, Jóhann. And yeah, I don't know, are you coming over to Dublin for the second leg, or were you just doing the first leg?
I wish. I've never been to Ireland. It would have been a good occasion, but too bad. No.
Well, I think I expect you over the next couple of years at some stage to drop over to see your former national team manager and see how he's getting on. So look, thanks very much for your time, and best of luck.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.